One of the greatest forms of injustice that quietly spreads in our communities is the delay or denial of payment to those who work for us. It may seem like a small matter to some, but in the sight of Allah, it carries tremendous weight. When a person works hard using his energy, time, and skills to serve someone else, that effort becomes sacred. The moment the task is completed, his right becomes due, and any delay or dishonesty becomes an act of oppression. Islam is a religion built upon justice and mercy. It commands fairness even in the smallest of matters. When Allah gives you the ability to employ someone, remember, it is not a sign of superiority. It is a test. You are being tested in how you treat those who depend on you for their sustenance. Many people fail to realize that every worker, no matter their status or background, is a human being with a heart that feels, a family that depends on them, and a life that struggles. When you delay their payment, you delay their peace. When you hold back what they have earned, you are not merely committing a business mistake. You are committing a sin that affects the purity of your own wealth. The Prophet clearly warned against this, saying that Allah himself will be an opponent to the one who employs a worker and does not pay him properly. Can you imagine standing on the day of judgment and finding Allah as your adversary because of a few unpaid wages? What a terrifying thought. We often justify our delays by saying, it's only a few days, or we'll get it soon. But what we fail to see is that every coin, every rupee, every dollar held back unjustly becomes a burden that weighs heavily in our book of deeds. Even if the worker forgives you, that injustice remains unless it is corrected. Islam does not only care about prayer and fasting, it deeply cares about how we earn, how we spend, and how we treat people. A true believer understands that his wealth is not only his, it is shared with those who helped him earn it. The one who pays on time, who ensures his worker receives his full due without any trickery, will find his earnings full of barakah. His wealth will bring peace, not arrogance. When you look at someone working for you, whether it's a laborer, a cleaner, a driver, or an employee in your company, don't see them as beneath you. See them as a person whom Allah has entrusted you with, even if just for a few hours. Their rights are sacred, and your behavior toward them reflects your level of taqwa. So before you count your profits or expand your business, pause and ask yourself, have I fulfilled the rights of those who helped me reach here? Because success in the sight of Allah is not measured by how much you have, but by how honestly you earned it and how fairly you treated others. A believer understands that wealth does not grow from greed, but from justice. Every time you pay your worker fairly and on time, you are not only fulfilling a duty, you are performing an act of worship that brings blessings into your life. The barakah that comes from honesty cannot be measured by numbers. You may think you are losing a little when you pay someone what they truly deserve, but in reality, you are gaining something much greater, the pleasure of Allah. The Prophet reminded us that wealth does not decrease from charity, and the same applies to justice. When you give what is due, Allah replaces it with peace, contentment, and hidden sustenance. On the other hand, when a person tries to save by being unfair, that wealth loses its soul. It may look abundant, but it brings anxiety, loss, and restlessness. The one who pays his worker in full and treats him kindly is planting seeds of goodness in his life. Such a person's heart becomes soft, his relationship sincere, and his earnings pure. He understands that his business is not just about profit, it's about earning through honesty and trustworthiness. The one who delays or cheats, even slightly, may think he is being clever, but Allah is watching. He knows every transaction, every intention, every silent thought that crosses the mind. Wealth that comes from deceit may glitter for a while, but it soon becomes a source of misery. Allah removes the barakah from such money, making it a cause of endless problems, illnesses, and worries. When you give someone their due without them having to ask or beg, you earn not only their prayers but also the mercy of Allah. There are countless stories of people whose lives changed because of the dua of a poor worker who was treated fairly. That simple act of justice opened doors of blessings that no effort alone could have achieved. Remember, your employees, your workers, your helpers, they are not just part of your business, they are part of your test. They work to feed their families, to provide for their children, to live with dignity. When you ease their burden by paying them fairly and promptly, Allah eases your burdens in return. A believer doesn't see payment as a transaction. He sees it as accountability. He knows that one day he will stand before Allah and every coin he gave or withheld will be questioned. Did you pay your worker with a smile, or did you make him wait? Did you give him his due with gratitude, or did you treat it as a favor? These are the questions that will matter most on that day. So let your dealings with others reflect your faith. Be generous, be fair, and be sincere. For the one who pays his worker in full, Allah promises something even greater. A heart full of peace, a life full of barakah, and a hereafter full of reward. The way you treat those who work for you is a mirror of your soul. It reflects what kind of person you truly are, beyond your words and outer appearance. Many people think power and wealth make them superior, but in truth, how you behave with those who are under your authority reveals your character far more than how you treat your equals. The humble believer understands that every worker, no matter how small their role seems, has honor and dignity in the sight of Allah. The cleaner who keeps your surroundings neat, the driver who takes you safely to your destination, the employee who works tirelessly behind the scenes. All are servants of Allah just like you. They may not have what you have, but they are blessed in their own ways. To look down upon them, delay their payments, or speak harshly to them is to display arrogance, and arrogance is one of the most despised qualities in Islam. When a person feels entitled and superior because of their position or wealth, they forget that everything they own is temporary. Allah can take it all away in a moment and make the one you look down upon rise above you. True success is not in controlling people, but in treating them with fairness and kindness. Every worker you deal with is an opportunity to gain reward. Your behavior towards them can become a form of worship if done sincerely for the sake of Allah. Even the smallest act of kindness, a smile, a word of appreciation, a fair payment, can earn you immense reward. The Prophet 8 taught us that the strong believer is not the one who dominates others, but the one who controls his anger and treats people with justice and compassion. When you treat your workers with respect, you build trust, and where there is trust, there is barakah. A worker who feels valued will serve you with sincerity. But when you exploit them or make them feel worthless, you not only harm their hearts, but also invite Allah's displeasure. There is no blessing in a home, a company, or a business that thrives on injustice. Wealth earned at the expense of another's dignity will eventually crumble, even if it takes time. On the day of judgment, those who were wronged will stand before Allah and seek justice, and Allah will grant it in full. So, look at those around you not with pride, but with humility. Remember that both you and your worker will return to the same earth, stand before the same Lord, and be judged by the same standards. Your power is temporary, but your behavior is eternal in its consequence. Treat your workers with gentleness, gratitude, and fairness. Speak to them kindly and never humiliate them. When you honor them, Allah honors you. When you respect them, Allah places respect for you in the hearts of others. That is the true measure of success. To live with humility and die with a clean heart. When you owe someone their due, it is not just a financial obligation. It is a moral and spiritual responsibility. The Prophet emphasized this beautifully when he said, "Give the worker his wages before his sweat dries." This profound teaching reminds us that justice should never be delayed. A person who has worked for you has spent his time, his strength, and his effort to fulfill his task. The moment that work is complete, his right becomes due, and delaying it without a valid reason is an act of oppression. In the eyes of Allah, oppression is darkness on the day of judgment. The worker may remain silent out of respect or fear of losing his job, but Allah hears the cries of every heart that has been wronged. So before his complaint reaches the heavens, make sure his payment reaches his hands. Delaying payments or withholding a portion of what is owed might seem minor, but in reality, it is a serious sin. Sometimes employers justify their actions by saying, "He'll get it next week," or "It's only a small amount." Yet what they forget is that small injustices accumulate, and on the day of judgment they will appear as mountains of accountability. A true believer lives with the awareness that every coin has a story, either of fairness or deceit. If that money was earned through justice, it will bring peace and blessings. But if it was taken by denying someone's right, it will become a curse that eats away at one's peace and prosperity. The sweetness of wealth lies in its purity, not in its quantity. When you pay your worker, do it with sincerity and dignity. Don't make him feel like he's begging for what is already his. Hand it over with respect, perhaps even with a kind word or a prayer for his well-being. Islam teaches us that good character is not only in worship but also in how we deal with people. The worker's satisfaction could become a means of earning Allah's mercy. His heartfelt prayer could protect you and your family from harm, while his pain could remove the blessings from your home. Never underestimate the value of justice done sincerely. We must also understand that fulfilling someone's right promptly reflects our own faith and discipline. A believer doesn't wait to be reminded of his obligations. He rushes to fulfill them because he fears standing before Allah empty-handed. Life is uncertain, and none of us knows when our time will end. If you die with someone's unpaid right in your possession, that burden follows you into your grave. So live clean. Keep your dealings transparent and your heart pure. When you pay your worker in full, you are not only completing a transaction, you are honoring a command of Allah. And when you do so, Allah in His infinite mercy promises to pay you in full with barakah, peace, and success in both worlds.